What is up, everybody? A special afternoon matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular.
Hello, or some might call it an afternoon delight.
An afternoon delights. That's
Sky
right.
rockets in flight. Afternoon delight.
I just want to begin by saying how disappointed I am that not more of our audience was on board with my whole deli counter line rotation policy.
You got no support there.
I don't understand.
No support.
This is a socialist show.
It's
a leftist show.
It's an idea ahead of its time, Keaton.
Okay, I'm going to be very, very brief and recap this. You need half a pound of roast beef, right? Let's say you're doing it for a job, or let's say you just need half a pound of roast beef. You get to the deli counter because of the labor, whatever, the labor shortage, the post-COVID, whatever you want to call it, whoever you want to blame for that. That's a different discussion for a different time. I'm talking mundane, real-life, moment-to-moment stuff here, okay? You go up, there's one person in front of you online, and that person is ordering 8 different things, and there's only one person behind the counter to cut the meat. Should you, who only needs half a pound or whatever the hell you need, have to wait for the person behind the counter to cut all 8 slices of the other person's meat, all 8 items? That could take about 20 minutes. Should you be expected to
Hang
wait,
on, keep going.
Or
Sieg Heil! This is your fascist deli counter takeover
I'm
moment.
just saying, well, we don't have, this would be like a Che Guevara thing.
Yeah,
we should have a drop for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Or should you only be able to order, especially when the counter is short-staffed, should you only be able to order 2 or 3 cuts of meat at a time? You can order 3 meats, then you get to the back of the line, everybody else gets help, then you order your next 3. So if you need 8, 10, 12 meats, the other person is not standing behind you forever. To me, that's only fair. And, we had some people in our audience saying, well, if you're in a rush, you should have got there sooner. What kind of reactionary bullshit is that? That's some right-wing shit right there. Should have done this, should have done that. That's the Republicans' motto. Oh, no. We're not pro-choice. If you didn't want to get pregnant, you shouldn't have had sex. If you didn't want to be in debt, you shouldn't have gone to a 4-year school. You should have just gone to a 2-year school. If you're poor, you should have gotten a better job. Should have done this. Should have. I want this logic applied to war veterans. Have the balls to say that to a war veteran who has like PTSD. Oh, well, what? You want me to pay for your psychological treatment? What? You shouldn't have gone to war. Shouldn't have signed up. Everybody knew the Iraq war was bullshit. You could have. Any moron could have told you the Iraq war was bullshit, so you shouldn't have gone. You served the country, now what? It's my problem that you can't hear a firework go off in the distance without shitting your pants? Fuck you. You shouldn't have gone. We don't say that to people. Because that's not the humane way to treat people. And it's the same principle applies here. Less severe circumstances, I will admit. But it's the same principle. And so this audience needs to get with it.
Yeah, no, and that's an issue that affects a lot of veterans because notoriously difficult to get your meat sliced in Iraq. So, they go to those deli counters and it's bombs and IEDs going off all around them as they're trying to get their quarter pound of turkey.
And it's only turkey. You can't get ham in Iraq, obviously.
No.
It's a big no-no.
That's actually studies have shown that's the main driver of PTSD from people who were stationed in Iraq.
We tried to bring ham
lack
to
of
Iraq.
Pork products.
Well, we tried to liberate the country and bring pork products to Iraq. Bring pork to the Middle East, but they didn't want it. We were told we would be greeted as liberators, but we didn't want it.
Well, we didn't have the transport capability to bring the pigs.
Yeah, right. Well, that too. All right, so we have a few topics that we want to get to, but before we do, I do want to tell people that you can support this show by going to patreon.com/do-dissidents. That gets you call-in access to these live streams as well as bonus content. We put out a really good Patreon-only episode yesterday, a full-length episode about the victory of Giorgia Meloni in the Italian election. And we put that out on Patreon because that's the kind of content that we really enjoy doing, but that unfortunately gets very few clicks and views and reactions on YouTube. On YouTube, what the YouTube audience wants to see is, Brianna Joy Gray owns Bill Maher, right? Or
Mhm.
something like that. We make fun of the Vanguard boys.
Speaking of which, if you're here by
Back off the mic a
intention,
little
or you
bit. It's a
just
little hot. It's a little hot. A little hot.
if you
There
just
go.
if you
There
just
we go.
stumbled in here like a fucking drunk, don't forget to like, click, and subscribe.
Yeah, like
right?
and subscribe.
All right,
all about. That's what it's all about.
we're not doing this for our health. For that, I could do it for the cat.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we are going to begin the show with a little bit of 2024 presidential election talk. Bernie Sanders made a little bit of news when he went on CBS earlier this week. We are not going to play the interview clip because CBS is notorious for putting.
I think Sean is trying to trigger you there.
Sean is a patron. Sean knows what's up. Sean is a supporter. Yeah, the Vanguard supports no limits to ordering deli meat. Exactly. They're right wingers. You know what they are? They are coddlers.
They're coddling Big Boar's Head.
right. You're a boar's head coddler. Exactly. All right, let me start this setup one more time. That's okay. That was worth it. That was funny. Hey, Sean. Seriously, Bernie, who cares? We already have someone who doesn't want to hear about this. All right, well, Bernie usually puts asses in the seats, so you'll have to bear with us here. But I think this is a somewhat interesting story, somewhat worth covering.
It shows what you know. You don't know that they found Bernie in the washroom with Hillary and Poodle.
Yeah, right.
Did you?
Don't knock the segment until you know where it's going.
There was also a clown. It gets really crazy.
Exactly. Bernie Sanders turned some heads this week on an interview with a CBS morning show. Because CBS is just notoriously terrible in terms of filing copyright claims when anyone plays their stuff on YouTube, we are not going to play that interview. Russell was talking to me about this offline before we went on. He asked me, and it's a good point. He says, is that why none of these like left-wing indie YouTubers mock the Stephen Colbert show? Because Colbert has
an obvious target.
Just an insufferable shit lib now. He's just he is the epitome.
It is
the
very
self-important, the self-important smug liberal comic who thinks he's funny but not. And there is a wealth of material there, but whenever you cover him, they put a copyright claim on the video, and sometimes that limits the circulation, so it's just not worth it. But anyway, for that reason, we're not going to play this clip. Instead, I'm just going to read briefly from an article in The Hill, which says here, Sanders leaves door open to 2024 White House run. Senator Bernie Sanders on Monday.
I do a good Bernie, so when we get to that, I'll just do it. It'll be just like watching the interview.
There you go. Senator Bernie Sanders on Monday said he hadn't yet decided whether he will make another bid for the White House. Can you read that, Russell?
That's a big, I haven't made that decision.
That's right. Exactly. Oh, man. The people who stumbled onto this program for our anti-Israel show are really going to love that impression. They're going to get a kick out of this channel.
Let me tell you that I don't think we've ever done a video about Israel. That brought out all the kooks. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That brought out all the psychos.
Yeah, but it got a big reaction, though. A lot of people had
Keaton's not really Jewish.
No, they say you're not Jewish. You're a self-hating Jew or whatever. There's
you get it from both sides. You get it from the Zionists. You get it from the people who just hate Muslims. You get it, it's
right,
like
exactly.
Everybody.
Every bigotry that people could possibly have.
That brought out everything from the conspiracy of Jewish bankers people to the Sharia law people. They all showed up. I mean, I think we finally found some way to unite the right and the left, really.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true, because there are multiple ways to attack that issue. You can have multiple different motivations and arrive at similar conclusions, all kinds of things like that. Obviously, we come at it from a humanitarian perspective, but not everybody feels
does
the same way.
No,
exactly.
No.
So the host then asked about Bernie's age. They say, you're 81, Biden is 79. We don't know if Biden is running again. He says he is, but when addressing the question about his age, Bernie Sanders said, there, Russell, start it. Look, this is what I think.
Look, this is what I think. You can't categorize everybody. You're different. than everybody. You know, we're all different. We've got to look at the individual. But what I think we do, guys, is we look back at race, at gender, at age. We look too much. What does somebody stand for? What are their views? Do you agree with them?
There you go. All right. Back off the mic a little bit. Coming in very, very hot there. I know it's
Well,
because
so
you're
does
excited,
Bernie.
Okay. Oh, that was part of the impression. Was
That's part of the
Oh,
impression.
okay.
Bernie's
I forgive
hot
you.
on the mic.
Sorry about that. So look, there you have it. He's leaving open the door for.
I mean, it's
run.
too bad we can't play the clip, because when he started saying, essentially, I don't really give a fuck if you have a black lesbian gender fluid person as press secretary. What are their views? The whole that really broke up the meeting. Like,
Yeah,
if you look at what their faces were like, they were like, hang on, a policy-based approach to politics? What
Right,
is this politics of which you speak?
He gets a lot of that shit. I mean, he gets a lot of shit for not putting enough emphasis, supposedly, on
I got two words for you.
representation.
Kamala fucking Harris.
Well, that's three,
What good is that?
Point taken.
James fucking Clyburn. They are as useless as the asshole right here. What are they doing for you? Cornel West said it. Black faces in high places. And that certainly does not apply only to that. We were talking about that in our Israel video. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Jerry Nadler. What good are these people? They pimp out their identity to get away with enriching private prisons.
Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, he does get a little bit of shit for that, and he opened the door to that, obviously, here. But that's honestly
good for
not
him.
Very...
Good for
No,
him.
I think
last time he said something like that, they went after him. I think it was right after the 2016 election. He was doing some kind of thing, and I think specifically the example of a Latina came up, and he said, "Yes, that's good, but what are our views? What are our policies?" Right. And they predictably went after him for that. This is the first time I've seen him get into that territory since then.
Yeah, and look, I mean, he's getting into that honestly because he does want to keep
because
the door
he's close
open
to death.
For a run. Well, he also is. I mean, if you're a politician and you're not thinking of running again, and someone asks you, "Are you running?" you just say no. When they say they're leaving the door open, they mean it, and I think that he does mean it. I think no Democrat will challenge Biden if Biden seeks to run. What certain Democrats might try to do, there was a report that Gavin Newsom was gearing up to just try and push his way in anyway as a way of pushing Biden out. We will see if that happens or not. Right. We don't know how credible that report is. That's why we didn't do a segment on it, but I did hear that. And so, look, when it comes to Bernie running in 2024, I have to say I do agree with many of the comments that we've gotten on here, and it's kind of, I mean, it is an encouraging sign as well as a depressing sign that so many people are just not into it. But how could they be?
Why would they be?
Why would they be? What people who are excited about
burn me, but we're gonna have to update the saying: "Burn me twice, shame on me. Burn me 3 times."
Yeah,
shame on you,
exactly.
Shame on me. Yeah,
look, whatever.
I did that. That was very George Bush of me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
you
can't get burned
Joe
again.
Biden. You know the thing.
Right. You know the thing, and you can't get burned again. Right. Exactly. But what people who are
that's
sort of
we're gonna make T-shirts. Won't get burned again if he runs again.
And that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
What people who are excited about a 2024 run, I think, are missing is that if you didn't come away from 2020 thinking there's no way that the Democrats will ever let this guy get the nomination, then I don't know what could convince you of that. See, going into the 2020 campaign, I was a little naive because I thought in 2016, and this was, when I was a much younger person, much more naive person, in 2016,
you should show that driver's license.
Yeah, right, exactly. My driver's license picture is an old one. I don't have my wallet nearby, otherwise I would. But in 2016, I thought that they rigged it for Hillary because they really wanted Hillary to win. Like, she seemed like the anointed candidate. I thought it was more a pro-Hillary bias than an anti-Bernie bias. That's what I thought. And
I never thought that.
Well, the reason I did is because no credible candidate mounted a serious challenge to her. So I figured, okay, they have this worked out that she's the nominee in advance, and
That's
anybody
true.
who gets in her way is just going to have to be neutralized. They obviously had a few stooges run against her, sort of like, pretend to run against her so it didn't look like she was the only one in the race.
Like
Jim
professional
Webb.
wrestling.
Right. Jim Webb, Lincoln Chafee, Maloney. What the hell was the guy's name? I think it was Malone, some three-syllable name, the guy from Maryland. I forget what the fuck his name was. Dweeby-looking guy. Anyway, the thing was, in the 2020 campaign, you realize,
Whitehead? Whitehead?
No.
No?
It was. I think it might have been Maloney. It was a guy from. He was from Maryland or something. I forget his name.
Right. The governor.
Yeah, the governor of
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah. I remember what you're talking about.
Who? I mean, I don't recall his name. Really, who cares? But anyway, but in 2020, it became apparent that no, this was actually as much an anti-Sanders bias as it was a bias in Martin O'Malley. Thank you, Cool Blue 71. O'Malley, that's Maloney.
Thank you.
O'Malley, thank you very much. This was as much an anti-Sanders bias as it was anything else. And there were a lot of people who were very tough critics of the 2020 campaign, saying he didn't push back against impeachment hard enough. He didn't push back against Russiagate hard enough. He sort of tried to, play nice with the DNC rather than really go after them the way a true insurgent would, the way he did, at least to a slightly greater extent in 2016. And for those who are new to this channel, I have made this point before, but since we've got some new subs in here, I guess I'll go through this again. Because the Bernie to
submissives or subscribers, you need to be clear.
Subscribers, yes.
Because the Bernie are in the private room.
Right, exactly. Right. Because the Bernie to Trump voters in 2016 had now already branded themselves Trump voters, right? They were no longer available to Bernie Sanders in that 2020 primary, right? So he didn't have the same sort of rogue appeal, the same sort of populist appeal to independents and even people who might go to Trump, because the people who went from Bernie to Trump in 2016, they were supporting Trump now. They were Trumpers now. So he had to recruit voters from inside the Democratic Party, which means there were certain places he could not go. There were certain things he could not say. He could not challenge Russiagate. He couldn't challenge any sort of impeachment narrative. He just couldn't go there because that would have been too
you know what he could have
self-destruct.
challenged?
What's
Joe
that?
Biden. And
Yeah, he could have.
And that's what I fault him for. He
But
didn't
here's
challenge the person he was running against.
It wouldn't have mattered.
My
convinced
friend Joe Biden.
I'm convinced it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Probably not, but without doing that, he needed to try to disqualify Biden, and he didn't have the stones to do that. Yes, it very well might have failed. You could even say it probably would have failed, but that was the only shot he had, and he didn't have the stones for it.
Well, listen, I think Joe Biden did plenty to disqualify himself through that campaign. He made an absolute fool of himself.
Sure he did.
Multiple times on
the debate stage. And Bernie refused to take advantage of it.
But here's why I say that would not have mattered. The first blog post I ever wrote, and I just created a website for this project because I thought we should have a website, so I wrote this little piece called Joe Biden and the Insufferable Weakness of Democratic Voters, because I knew all along they were the real problem here, and I still feel that way 10 times stronger now even than I did then. So yes, Bernie, you could say he was too soft on Joe Biden. Ultimately, they voted for this guy anyway, despite making a complete ass of himself at every opportunity, despite failing miserably in the early states. So for all the mistakes that the Sanders campaign made, both on a macro level in terms of not playing hardball enough, on micro level, there were certain, strategic mishaps that they made. I would love to know whose idea it was to put him on 60 Minutes right after the Nevada caucus win. Why would you set yourself up for a hit job interview when you have all the momentum going into South Carolina? He was considered pretty much the prohibitive frontrunner after Nevada. And they took all that momentum and they handed it over to the mainstream media and said, here, please sandbag us with this bullshit, Fidel Castro Cuba question so that the media can talk about that all week instead of how we kicked ass at the Nevada caucus with a diverse coalition. So yes, there were many, many things that they did wrong. But despite all that, the fact of the matter is they won the first 3 states and they were in
Now we're never
position-
getting Brianna on the show. It was our idea.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. That's why I want to know whose idea it was.
I'm kidding.
Right. No, I'm just saying I would love to actually ask somebody who knows that, because that person is a fucking moron who thought it was a good idea to put him on 60 Minutes at that time. So anyway, despite all of these mistakes, the fact of the matter is he won the first 3 contests and he was in a phenomenally good position to clinch the nomination on Super Tuesday. After the Nevada caucus, right? After then, he was leading in almost every Super Tuesday state, even states that we don't really see much polling in, like Tennessee,
he was
Arkansas,
even polling even with Biden in South Carolina.
Even in South Carolina, right? But I'm talking about, okay, then you had, the aforementioned James Clyburn came and endorsed Biden for South Carolina, and that steered South Carolina, right? But even after that, he still went into Super Tuesday with huge polling leads in almost every single state, which means despite all of the mishaps and all of the mistakes and all the errors in judgment and errors in strategy, he still went into Super Tuesday in a phenomenally good position to win. If you were a campaign manager, you could not have asked for a better outlook going into Super Tuesday, despite all the negatives, right? And all it took was a last-minute phone call from Barack Obama to Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke. Hey, it's time to get serious and back Joe Biden, otherwise Bernie is going to win. And that was all it took for all these voters in all of these Super Tuesday states. And like I said, Bernie was leading in, I think, 12 of 14 of them. He was leading in Arkansas, leading in fucking Tennessee, Virginia, right? He was leading everywhere. All it took were a few phone calls from the right people at the last minute. We're talking less than 48 hours before the vote. Said, no, it's not Bernie, it's Biden. And they all went, oh, okay, fine. So how you can think that you have a shot to win the nomination of a party that can just do that at the last minute? Because I think the theory
whose
is,
voters are that mindless?
This time we're going to play our cards right, and this time we're going to win. I'm saying, even though you didn't play all your cards right last time, even though you made a lot of fuck-ups last time, the fact is, despite all that, you still went into Super Tuesday positioned to win. And they found a way to take it for you at the last minute because they don't want you repping their party, and they have their base of their party under their thumb. Therefore, you are not winning that nomination. What people have to understand is that he more or less did win the nomination this time. They say, well, this 2020 campaign wasn't as good as the 2016 campaign. Well, it wasn't as good in the sense that he didn't get enough votes because he dropped out earlier. He didn't get as many votes. He didn't win as many states. But it was better in the sense that in that this last cycle, he was actually positioned to win. He was never positioned to win in 2016. He ran a great campaign. He did phenomenally well, but he lost 3 out of the first 4 contests in 2016.
You mean H.A. Goodman was a grifter?
What's that?
Right,
exactly.
Was a grifter?
Right, you had certain people running their mouth, but the fact of the matter is he was never positioned to win that time. He lost 3 out of the first 4 contests. He lost almost all of the Super Tuesday contests. Then he caught a wave after Super Tuesday because a lot of the heartland states that hated Hillary voted for him. And he rode a string of like 9 victories in a row up till New York. And it was thought, well, if he pulls out New York, maybe he can pull off a comeback. But the fact of the matter is he was never in a position to win in 2016. He was in a great position to win this last time, and he was denied it anyway. So how you can think after that 2024 is going to be any different, I don't know. And I cannot imagine he will have anywhere near the number of volunteers. You're not going to get 1 million people to give you a year of their lives and God knows how much money in terms of small dollar donations, only to have Barack Obama nullify all that with one phone call at the last minute. Who's going to sign up for that? Who the fuck is going to sign up for that?
Not me. Last time I didn't even volunteer. I did donate, but I just on general principles. After what happened in 2016, I saw the light. I saw no. They'll never let a guy like that win. I felt bad for those people. I knew people, I'm sure you did too, up in New Hampshire in the snow, campaigning for him. I saw that. I was like, they're really wasting their time. So we got a little super chat from American Wasp with Dieter McBusiness. I like that name. I'm going to steal that and write a spy novel. Apparently, Vanguard is down to debate. Well, I think we need to debate the issue of our time, which is deli meat.
Yeah, I would like to get their opinion on that. Pitch that as a topic to them.
I think we should just pitch the line.
What do you mean
system.
you talked to them? Did you give them a super chat on their show? Is that how you got their attention? Or did you actually like email them or message them? Or are you in contact with any of them? I'd be curious to know that, but that's interesting.
We'll debate the deli meat. We'll come in with the Seinfeld theme.
Did you tell them who we were, or did they know who we were? Did they watch the video?
I bet they did. That got around, man.
It did get around. I mean, Aaron Mate obviously saw it.
My theory is that's why they pulled down that interview.
You think that's why they pulled down the? Oh yeah, so the Vanguard boys actually did pull down the Aaron Mate interview. They pulled down the Aaron Mate interview.
I take my share of the credit for that.
Well, I mean, it's just hilarious. I mean,
man, those guys are going to need erectile dysfunction drugs for years after that video we did on them.
I mean, look, I mean, the thing is, it was all right. I mean, we'll get into some of the gossip here. It was mostly the long hair guy. What's his name? Gavin. It was mostly him who was the asshole. Like the other guy, Zach he was a little bit, he was a little testy, but he wasn't to the point where like it was unprofessional. You know what I mean? Like he didn't cross that line. Gavin crossed that line. Yeah, right. Yeah. So listen, I mean, I give Zach a little bit of credit, honestly, for not tearing into Gavin too much over that, because if that were us, like, let's say Russell and I booked a guest like Aaron Mate or a Glenn Greenwald, just a huge guest. It's like a huge catch for the show. Now we're going to have major credibility as a show because we got this great guest, right? And if we booked that guest,
and one of us just went off the reservation.
If Russell was such an insufferable asshole throughout the whole thing that not only did it go terribly and we had to lose subs over it, but we actually had to take it down. Could you imagine us having to take down an interview with Aaron Mate?
That would hurt.
Just because you were such an asshole? Like, I would have fucking driven down to Harlem and killed this fucking guy.
Why are we assuming it's me? Why can't it be you?
I'm saying if it were you, this is how I would react. So you can think if it were me, this is how you would react. I'm just saying what I would think if my co-host sabotaged an interview.
I'll go upstate with a fucking Louisville Slugger, you motherfucker. All right, so Malcolm RX,
if it was you, that's how I would feel.
Malcolm RX, aka Jim Clyburn. I like that.
That's good. Virtuoso's got insults.
And
he made a couple of good jokes last time.
That's what they call. That's what the kids call a sick burn.
Yeah.
And Obama rolled Biden over the finish line, absolutely, along with an army of dead people. The Democratic, I don't mean rigging the vote. I mean now he's seeing dead people, as we will reveal in our next segment. The Democratic electorate was also too willfully standoffish to vote Bernie. Yeah, man. I mean, they're the base of the party are suburbanites.
Exactly, and that's it. That's that.
They do what they're told.
Right. That's it. It's the vote. I wrote, this was in May of 2019. I wrote this at 4:00 in the morning with my newborn baby napping on my chest. I wrote it on my phone. Maybe I'll read that article. I know that seems like a big ego thing to do. I won't do it now, but maybe in a future episode,
that'll be like Andy Kaufman with The Great Gatsby.
Right, exactly. Just to prove how right I had it, because I said, look, these are the people who are so deathly afraid of Donald Trump winning again. All they care about is who can beat the orange man. And so all that has to happen for Biden to win the nomination is MSNBC just has to tell these fucking idiots that Joe Biden is the one who could beat Trump. That's it. That's all that has to happen, and Biden is a lock. And that's all that happened. At the end of the day, they said, no, Bernie can't win, Biden can win, vote for him. And they did it. And they did it. Whereas the Republican electorate cannot be bossed around that way. That's why Trump broke through and Bernie didn't, because the Republican voters don't take orders
they
from
tried to
party
sandbag.
leadership.
They tried to sandbag Trump, but
Of
they're
course,
not. They're not those people. They're not those people.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right.
They
All right.
couldn't do
Listen,
it.
Mr. Weiss, he's doing fine. He has a job. You can stop now.
Yeah,
It's
right.
okay.
Yeah. My
It's
dad gave yeah. Plus, I have to share all this money with Russell. So if you want to help me out,
You go down to
slide
the
an envelope
drugstore.
under
You
my
get
door.
you get the Hanukkah card. Hanukkah's coming up.
Right, exactly.
You put the money in. You give it to him with the little chocolate gelt.
Right.
You know, that's all.
There you go. Exactly. And you could slide some cash under the door. This way, Russell doesn't have to know about it.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. David, not a super chat, but we'll call this an okay chat worth reading. If Bernie had stood up and shown
A
some
middling
balls,
chat.
he'd have gotten enough voters. No, he wouldn't have. I'm glad you didn't pay to have me disagree with you. So there's that. But no, he would not have. No, these people are so dumb. They take orders from the people who give them orders. Barack Obama tells them vote for Joe Biden. They vote for Joe Biden. MSNBC tells them vote for Joe Biden. They vote for Joe Biden. There's nothing he could have done. It is an unwinnable race ultimately. Because you cannot do anything inside a party whose voters are just that brain dead. It's not possible.
It's true. As a red-pilled former victim of corporate media, who still has a lot of friends who continue to live in that bubble. I don't know how many of you have always been radical, or I find most people who have wound up in the Bernie movement were radicalized very often by seeing the way the media and the party treated him in the 2016 campaign. That was very much my own story. Look, from the time these people get up in the morning to the time they go to bed, it's like a dystopian science fiction cascade and avalanche of propaganda. I mean, it's all the whole media is projecting one message to them from the time they get up and put on their fucking Today Show or whatever shit they prefer, to the article they read in the Times or WAPO, to coming home and watching the CNN and the MSNBC, to all the conversations they have around the water cooler. There's one opinion. And a lot of alternative media people have done these compilations showing how across various media platforms, they use the same exact words, the same exact messaging to attack the same exact people on the same exact grounds. And mixed up in all of that is the underlying implication, and this is what's in it for them, that having these opinions makes you one of the elites. It makes you one of us. That's the secret sauce that makes that all work.
Exactly.
Right? This is the inside Washington take. This is what you're supposed to think if you're a sophisticated, educated member of the professional managerial class. And that's really what they're going there for. They don't even realize that's what they're going to these media sources for, but it is. They're going for cues on how to signal to the group that they are of the body, that they belong amongst all of the elite people with the same opinions living in the suburbs. That's it. So for them, there's nothing in it for them, given what their political motivations are, to come around. There's nothing in it for them. Their politics are about class signaling and nothing else. Why would they signal something that's going to disrupt their narrative about who they are in relation to their community?
Right. Why would they want to act in a way or think in a way that puts them on the New York Times naughty list? Why?
Right.
Why? They live to think that they are intelligent enough to read the New York Times.
Right.
That is what gives
to
them
do the crossword. They only do that
Right.
crossword to tell you they're doing the crossword.
Exactly.
It's the only reason they do it.
Right. Whereas the Republican base hates the media. They don't give a shit what the media has to say about them. They hate the media. They like sticking their thumb in the eye of the media.
Right.
And so the more the right-wing media went after Trump, which they did early in the 2016 primary, the more they thought, hey, let's jump on the Trump train. Right? That just fueled him. in a way that it would never fuel Sanders, because these parties are different. Their electorates are different. David says he was the most popular politician in the country.
Yeah,
that's true.
that and a nickel won't get you on the subway, buddy.
The country doesn't vote in Democratic primaries. Democratic primary voters vote in Democratic primaries, and that is the problem.
That's it. That's
that
it.
is the structural problem that he
some
could not
shit
overcome.
libs come, and you probably heard it yourself. A lot of them tried to make that argument. Why do you think Sanders could have won the presidency when he couldn't win a Democratic primary? And my response was exactly. Because he couldn't win a Democratic primary, he would have won the country. Nobody that the Democratic base primary electorate finds appealing can win a national election unless you have an apocalypse.
Right.
But you just can't count on those.
Yeah, they don't come around all that often. He still didn't fight back. No, I don't think he fought back hard enough either. I'm not arguing with you there. I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, do I wish, all things being equal, do I wish he fought back harder? Sure. That doesn't mean he would have won. He wouldn't have won. That was unwinnable. That was structurally unwinnable, and it's going to be unwinnable next time. Gavin Newsom will beat Bernie Sanders in the 2024 primary if he runs against him. There's no question about it.
And
because
then
first of all, Gavin has California,
DeSantis
which is a huge delegate basket, which so there's that, first of all. But second of all, they'll do the exact same thing that they did with Bernie to Biden as they will Bernie to Newsom. If Bernie gets a lead, right, Obama will come out and endorse Newsom. And that'll be that. That will be that. You cannot win inside a party like this. It is not doable. My father says he's not giving us another nickel unless we explain how to do a green super chat. Well, I don't know that, so I'm sorry about that.
We don't know that.
Like I said,
you're out of the fucking well.
I have to share the super chats. We have to share the super chats with YouTube, and I got to share them with Russell. So yeah.
Listen, Mr. Weiss, if you're shopping around that will. My father is like a Tom Waits song given flesh, so I'm not getting shit out of him. So if you wanna take care of me, we can talk. We can talk around the back. You don't need this fucking kid.
David says Green Party, guys. I agree with you. I intend on voting Green on November 8th. I'm going to vote for Howie Hawkins for governor of New York, I think. All right, another super chat from American Wasp, who, by the way, you just said you were marrying an Ashkenazi Jew next week. Mazel tov. Welcome to the tribe, my man.
My sympathies.
Great to have you. Yeah.
I almost married a Polish girl, and I was friends with a Polish guy. And apparently this is a saying. If you marry a Polish girl, you go straight to heaven because you've already been to hell. P.S. I didn't marry her.
Can these January 6th hearings be spun into political capital that the left could use to attack the right in a whole new, unapologetic, super aggressive way? I'm trying to see if I understand that question. Be spun into political capital? How so? Please clarify that point with another $4.99 super chat. No, I'm kidding. But no, seriously, I mean, I think what I'm taking is that does this give the left an opportunity to sort of go on offense against the right? I don't think so. We'll see what comes out of these hearings. I was very disappointed to see Our Revolution sending out a mass email about a conference that they're having regarding the January 6th hearings. I don't think it's much of an issue.
People don't really care. They might care if they didn't think the entire system was broken and corrupt.
Right,
but when they feel the entire system is broken and corrupt, when you call out corruption, it's okay. And what else is new? So
okay,
what,
so you
what,
mean go
what
on
else you
offense instead of defense like they always do? No, well, look, they went on offense against Trump plenty. Democrats were not in a defensive.
It was a
posture
impeachment to go.
Right, it was impeachment. It was RussiaGate. It was everything. The thing about January 6th is that you don't have the trust in these systems. You don't have the admiration in these systems that were being, confronted on January 6th. Like, nobody actually believes in the institutions of the country anymore. So an attack on the Capitol struck people as, a rally that got out of hand, more so as a serious attack on democracy. Now, you could say it was a serious attack, right? You could say they did go in there with the intention to basically overthrow the government, right?
Sure.
I mean, that was their stated goal.
Sure.
But even so, people still look
That
at it
that
and
and
say, well,
s'mores. I understand they were going to make
yeah,
s'mores
there
afterwards.
was, yeah, right, exactly.
There
Bonfire.
was there was a real campfire feel in that
There
crowd.
was a great meme that went out that I think I shared right after January 6th with it was the stars and it was the, red and white stripes of the US flag, and where the stars would be are all these corporate logos, and the meme said the coup already happened. And
Hmm.
that's true. That's the way I feel. I think that's the way most people feel. Not everybody would frame it like that. Some people would frame it more as this like elite cabal, the more sort of like uh conspiratorial right wing crowd would probably frame it that way. But I think most people in their bones know that the country is not worth fighting for anymore, and so it's not really worth defending. And so, yeah, this was an opportunity
Well,
to
that's
overthrow the
I mean,
government. Who cares,
yeah.
really?
You
I mean,
you
that's the way most people think, I think.
Yeah, you watch like the Morning Joe crew hyperventilating about January 6th revelations. For most Americans, they might as well be from Mars. They're coming from a completely different world where these institutions work for them. And so they're really concerned about preserving them. It's like you transported them from 1946. Like, what are you talking about? The average person doesn't have any investment in these institutions.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's go to a somewhat related segment here because the only way Bernie would even possibly try to run for president.
Hang on. Listen. So, American Wasp is, saying that this is the greatest act of political terrorism since the Civil War. No, it's fucking not. People have a very short memory. Go look up the years 1971 and 1972. There were an average of over 2,000 domestic terrorist bombings a year, per year. Today, we lose our shit if you find a pressure cooker in a dumpster. During those years, domestic terrorist bombings from leftists, pretty much exclusively, were a constant daily thing in the United States, and about 1/3 of college campuses were shut down on any given day. We just haven't seen anything like that in a very long time. And one of the things that's most interesting about January 6th to me, socioculturally, is the fact that that's the kind of stunt that the left might have pulled in 1968. The fact that that came from the right tells you a lot about how the base of each of those movements has shifted. The people who are ready to, and I'm not saying their motivations for doing it were right. I'm not saying it was a great event, but it used to be the leftists who had that kind of commitment. And today you can't find leftists who would do something like that for any reason, justified or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is well put. Alrighty. So, like I said, now that we got a good crowd in here, everybody please like this stream and please subscribe to this channel. We're going to go into a somewhat related segment here because
like and subscribe, you motherfuckers. Just
Um,
fucking come in here for free.
if Bernie Sanders does run for president again, it will only be because Joe Biden decides not to. So here is some evidence that perhaps Joe Biden is not up for a 2024 run. Perhaps the Dark Brandon serum is starting to wear off.
I'm just going to point out, yes, none of these were a direct attack on the Capitol, but in their acid-addled way, they did try to levitate the Pentagon, which is probably even worse. Should look that up.
But I mean, it was domestic terrorism. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
I mean, those bombings, absolutely. All right. Can I try setting this segment up again so we can clip it for YouTube?
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead. I'm being unruly. You're right.
It appears that Joe Biden's Dark Brandon serum has started to lose its potency because there was a period of time where, after he signed the IRA and then he relieved student debt and then he made the speech with the dark figures in the background with the lights shining off into the audience. He was on a bit of a roll there, right? I don't know what drugs they had him on, but it seems like they're starting to wear off. He might need another cocktail injected into him pretty soon, because he was at an event, some food and nutrition event, and he wanted to thank the bipartisan coalition of senators and representatives who made whatever initiative he was there touting possible. And so he called a few names, including that of Jackie Walorski, who has been dead now for over a month. So let's take a look at this.
Know so much about this. So many of you know so much about this as well, and you're committed. And I want to thank all of you here for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I thought she was going to be here. Whew. Oh, man. I mean, the luck of this guy, too, because he's calling out different senators, right? You think he would have called on maybe Cory Booker to stand up, right? Or something like that. But no, the one who he actually singled out to, like, hey, are you here? Oh, I picked the dead one. No, the dead one's not here. Jackie Walorski died in a car wreck last month. So there's that. I mean, that is as cringy a gaffe as you could really make, to actually ask if a dead congresswoman is in the audience. All right, so that... Exactly. So, yeah, she was killed at age 58 on August 3rd, 2022. Jackie Walorski, like I said, she's been dead for now well over a month. So he calls on her. And then this clip is cringier yet. This is at a press conference where Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, was asked what he meant. Why did you call on a woman who's been dead for now almost 2 months? And let's see how she answers this one.
Today, the president appeared to look around the room for an audience member, a member of Congress who passed away last month. He seemed to indicate she might be in the room.
The president was, as you all know, you guys were watching today's event, a very important event on food insecurity. The president was naming the congressional champions on this issue and was acknowledging her incredible work. He had already planned to welcome the Congresswoman's family to the White House on Friday. There will be a bill signing in her honor this coming Friday. So, of course, she was on his mind. She was of top of mind for the president. He very much looks forward to discussing her remarkable legacy of public service with them.
With her on Sunday.
Yeah, right.
Hi, everyone.
So there you have it. Now, look.
That's I have no love for her, but she has my sympathy in that particular moment. That's a rough gig.
Exactly. Like, I never beat up on the press secretaries. I never beat up on, Spicer or the what's her name, Sarah Huckabee or Jen Psaki. It's like, look, somebody's got to defend Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Like, there's going to be a defense lawyer who has to do the really uncomfortable and morally compromising work of saying what the White House wants you to say, whether it's true or not, whether it makes any sense at all or not. And so, it doesn't say great things about your character that, like, you're willing to do that for a living, but then again, somebody has to do it. And so it's got to be somebody. So whoever's in that spot has to go out there and say that. But that is pretty brutal. I mean, it is pretty brutal to have to go out there and be that Orwellian to say, no, she was in his thoughts. He was really thinking of her incredible contribution to this food security program that they had put forward. And that's why, he was really thinking of her. Well, if he was really thinking of her, don't you think he would have, like, made a tribute to her? Said, and by the way, we want to thank Jackie Walorski, the late Jackie Walorski, for making this possible, and may you rest in peace, and God bless her family. That's what you would say if she were on your mind as someone who was sort of worth calling out in that way.
Well, obviously.
Not, hey, Jackie, where's Jackie? Where were you?
This is what they came up with on the fly in the back room to deal with something that's impossible to deal with. I think they would have been better off going full Sixth Sense and saying he's at that age now where he sees dead people.
Yeah, I mean, if it were Trump's press secretary, just say, no, she was there. He saw her. I saw her. No, I saw her.
It is well known.
You say
that
she's
when-
dead. That may be
when-
true, but she was there. That maybe maybe she was. I've heard a lot
It
of things
is
about.
there are photographs. There's
Right.
there's an energy field. You can see
Right.
see an orb in if you just look at the corner of this photograph.
Right, exactly. They'd have made something up where no, he actually did see her. Because look, I mean, the only thing to say there that's remotely honest is look, he had a brain fart. Like at that point, you may want to just admit he had a brain fart, right? Like you may want to admit, like, yeah, look, he screwed up. That's on him because everybody knows it. Like you're not convincing anybody that was anything but just a super cringy gaffe from a semi-senile
At which point,
man.
I say go for broke. You know, it's well known people at this age can commune with the dead, and he's been getting advice from Theodore Roosevelt and some of the other great presidents through this gift he has through virtue of being close to death.
Yeah, I mean, now from a serious point of view, I mean, they must have been putting him on some sort of cocktail, some sort of stimulant, something to get him through those speeches and all those events that he did, a few weeks ago. And, he's running out of gas a little bit before the midterms, it seems here. I mean, that was quite the remarkable thing. And
there's only so long they can prop him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
There's only so I've been saying that. A lot of people have been saying that since he went out and debated Bernie and performed, reasonably. He's still not the Joe Biden of 2008, but he was reasonable. And everyone was very surprised. That's when the rumors started, like they must be shooting him up with something. But it seems like they are. But the thing with that is that, it's like taking performance enhancing drugs. Sooner or later, you're worse off than you were before. Sooner or later, drugs aren't enough anymore.
Yeah, we will see what happens, and we will see after the midterms. We'll get a very good idea of if he actually is going to run again.
I think
that's when you'll see.
I think that's when he's going to signal strongly one way or the other. I can't imagine how they campaign. I don't think he would have gotten through this campaign except for COVID. They were able to hide him in the basement and, just let Trump go out and scare the living shit out of everybody. That was their whole campaign.
Right, exactly. We have Ed in the chat here, Ed in the studio here, one of our patron callers. Ed, you turned on your mic, so I'm going to admit you to say hello if you want. What's up, Ed?
Not much, guys. How you been?
Good. Ed Quigley from Ireland. I can tell by the
That's
accent.
right.
We have a couple of Ed patrons, That's our everyman appeal that we have. We really are. We're very popular with Eds and Franks and Tonys and Janes. But yeah, what's up, man? I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long since March.
Well, it's tough over there, man. He's out chopping firewood.
Yeah, I was in Boston a couple of weeks ago, and it's not too bad in the States, all right. But in Europe, it's a different story anyway, I think.
I'm sorry, you said you were in Boston a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I was in Boston there in the middle of August, I think.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
So it's nice, yeah.
What's on your mind? Did you have any specific questions or any points to raise?
No, I just want to tune in and I suppose hear about Joe Biden, I suppose how bad he's going but the best thing I think about Biden is like if he was to drop dead, I don't think would even find a vice president. Like where is she? She's nowhere to be seen. She's not even getting out like showing herself. Kamala Harris said she's MIA, I think.
Yeah, well they're because every time she says something they have to do damage control. They already have to do so much damage control with him seeing dead people. They don't need somebody else they have to cover for because she's an undiagnosed sociopath who has no sense of social skills.
Well, I mean, this is what just makes the choice of her as VP so perplexing. Like you knew going in that you had a presidential candidate who would very likely not be able to seek a second term. Don't you think you'd want to pick a ringer VP who would just become the presumptive nominee in case he had to step down? Like, why you would sandbag yourself with someone who's worse than him? Like, she comes off worse than he does. Even though he can barely speak, she is just objectively worse than he is on the microphone. No doubt about it.
they wanted a black woman, one, and two, a black woman who was never, ever, ever, ever going to stand up for herself
and upstage him. I mean, that's the thing. In a way, and I think we've even said this on the show in the past, that in a way that made her the right choice. Because look, if he picked Abrams, people would have been calling for him to step down a year ago. They'd been like, all right, that's it. Forget it. You obviously can't do it. Abrams is competent. She's good. She can handle it. Just step down and put her in. With someone like Harris there,
insurance policy.
Right. With someone like Harris there, they're not inclined to say that. Nobody's calling on Biden to step down. Oh yeah, let Kamala take it. She's got it, clearly. Like, no one's thinking that. So it's a good insurance policy against calls for his resignation. It really is. American Wasp comments here. So you can just video call in. So one of the things that our Patreon supporters and paid Substack subscribers have is call-in access to the show. So if you want to sign up, Mr. Wasp, I mean, you've already given us a lot in Super Chat donations.
We love wasps.
$5 a month. Right.
Some of our best friends are wasps.
We could use some wasps to balance out the show, actually. This is a very Northeast Jewy kind of show we're running here. We could use a few wasps. But you've already helped us out with the Super Chat, so this would be much, much cheaper. Honestly, be $5 a month. Sign up patreon.com/DoDissidents. In the morning of these streams, we send out call-in links so that Patreons and paid Substack subscribers can call in to this show.
Come on, say whatever you want about Israel.
Exactly. You say, isn't that corrupt? Aren't you running a pay-to-play scheme? Yes, we are. This is like the Hillary Clinton State Department here. That's how we run it. You pay us, you get to talk to us. You don't? You don't.
Only you don't get weapons.
Right, exactly, right. It's a peaceful exchange. Exactly. All right, Ed. Well, one thing that differentiates this software from Zoom is that I can't take this graphic off the screen unless I remove you from the chat. You will still be able to watch the show, and if you want to talk again, just turn your mic back on, and that'll be my signal to let you back in. All right, bud?
Okay.
All right, thank you, man. All righty. So let's move on, shall we, to our final segment of the program here. News came across the wire this week, pretty big news, that Edward Snowden has been granted citizenship in Russia. And Glenn Greenwald appeared on the Breaking Point show to talk about that, but also because we are going to do a special patron-only segment on the Snowden, sort of the sort of whole sort of collection of Snowden related news. But I wanted to zero in on this one theory that Greenwald floats here. So Glenn Greenwald, who obviously broke the Snowden revelations, about the NSA data sharing, right, spying, he went to Hong Kong, met with Edward Snowden in Hong Kong, broke the story. It was printed in the Washington Post, in the Guardian outlet. And so he is obviously a major advocate for the pardoning of Edward Snowden by the United States. He's also an advocate for the pardoning of Julian Assange. And he went on Breaking Points this week to discuss his former source. And he floated a theory that I thought was quite interesting. And it's the kind of thing that I was surprised to hear him float, because Greenwald, whether you agree with a lot of what he says or don't, he says a lot of controversial things now. He's a bit of a troll now. He says things that he knows is going to, get people mad at him.
Sure.
So whatever your feelings are on that stuff, he's certainly a credible source of information.
We should talk.
Right, exactly. Right. Right. Unlike us. He's very controversial, right?
We keep it right down the middle, yeah.
Exactly. But he is a credible source of information. Like, he is a serious journalist. He is a serious reporter. He doesn't dabble in conspiracy theories that he cannot substantiate when pressed. And so it was really interesting that he brought up that in the final days of the Trump presidency, while he was being impeached over January 6th, there were Republican senators who held that impeachment over his head, threatening to vote guilty if he pardoned Edward Snowden. So let's hear him make this case.
Trump
This is
administration
interesting stuff.
considering it was the Trump administration considering actively pardoning Snowden. I think it was one of Trump's more cowardly moves not to have done that. The reason he didn't was because the second impeachment trial was hanging over his head, and Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham made clear, and Mitch McConnell, if you pardon Snowden, we're going to vote for your own impeachment. But he didn't. And now the Biden administration, was a part of the Obama administration, is continuing this repressive attack on whistleblowers that led to Snowden not being able to come back to the United States in the first place.
Yep.
I had never heard that before, Glenn, that there was a threat from Rubio and Graham and some of the more like hawkish pro-security state Republicans to potentially vote to convict Trump in that impeachment hearing over Snowden. Is there, just explain that a little bit more to me, because that's a new piece of information for me.
Yeah, so, obviously I was somebody who was working very actively, both publicly advocating, but also in private, doing everything I could to secure a pardon for both Assange and Snowden being my source, and Assange being someone I regard as heroic. And there was real movement inside the Trump administration to give particularly Snowden a pardon. They came much closer to Snowden than they did to Assange. And if you think about it, why would they have initiated an impeachment proceeding against a president who within a couple of weeks was on his way out? And the reason, Crystal, was that they were very afraid that on his way out, Trump was going to do a bunch of stuff, including not just giving pardons to Snowden and Assange, but also declassify all kinds of documents he had been threatening to declassify about the CIA, about the Kennedy assassination. And the only leverage they had against Trump doing what they considered crazy stuff on his way out was the second impeachment trial. And they explicitly communicated to Trump, multiple Republican kind of hawkish senators did, that if you do what we know you're thinking about doing, what Rand Paul and Matt Gaetz and others were encouraging him to do, which was pardon Snowden, that will severely jeopardize your chances of getting out of this impeachment trial with an acquittal. And that was the kind of sword of Damocles hanging over his head during that transition.
All right. So there you have it. That is pretty interesting stuff. And if he has information that would corroborate that story, it would be great to have that out in the public. Like I said, he is a trustworthy source of information. I think he is one of the premier journalists in the world, whether you agree with him on things or not. So I think he has enough integrity to the point where I trust him as a source. So if he says it, and he doubled down, because if you noticed, Crystal Ball says, wait a minute, hold on, I didn't hear that. Can you explain that more? And he said, sure, absolutely. And he just went right into it. He's the kind of guy who comes with the facts. He comes knowing his shit. He's never going to be knocked off balance by any sort of inquiry like that. So I take him at his word on that, and that is a very, very interesting revelation, assuming it's true, which, again, I do, because I trust the source in this case. And so this really flies in the face because, some people on the left, including Crystal's own future husband there, has made the point that, well, Trump, yeah, he talks like a populist. He's a fake populist. He's this and that. He really governed like a mainstream Republican. He really governed like Mitt Romney, right, would have governed. And that's true in certain like domestic examples, right? The tax cuts for the rich, the deregulation, blah, blah, blah. But there is a whole realm of policy in which Trump really was a unique threat to the bipartisan consensus, especially the military-industrial complex and the national security state. Now, I know you're what everybody's going to say. Oh, how can you say he was a threat to the military when he beefed up their budget? Well, yes, he beefed their budget up. He rebuilt the military. We have big, beautiful planes, right? We have all this. But then he would add, and we hope we never have to use them. Well, nah, that ain't going to fly with the military. That doesn't fly with the Pentagon. No, you have to use them, schmuck. If you don't use them, there's no demand to make more of them. Right? Exactly. And he didn't give them the war that they wanted with Russia and Ukraine, right? We didn't have to keep making weapons to send out to Ukraine to fight the proxy war with Russia, right? So he was very, very disruptive in that way. And of course, extremely disruptive in this way. They would not have had to worry about Mitt Romney pardoning Edward Snowden on the way out the door. They would have had no worries about that whatsoever. The fact that
much
they
less
were
the
concerned,
JFK files.
The JFK file, right? Trump is a conspiracy theorist. We know this. He talks like a conspiracy theorist. He functions as a conspiracy theorist. And by the way, not all conspiracy theories are bullshit. quite a few of them have a lot more truth to them than a lot of people are very comfortable, letting out of the bag. Like the JFK files, right? I mean,
and that's it. There goes our monetization.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I wouldn't
to
go
blow the whole
I'm not going to
thing.
go. I'm not. I mean, JFK is a commonplace thing, right? You're allowed to speculate about that, now,
Kidding,
right?
I'm joking.
I know, I'm joking. But what I'm saying is, like, yeah, there is this idea that on the way out the door, he might choose to, declassify certain things. And that's actually one of the follow-up questions that Greenwald got to that is, does that have anything to do with the documents in his basement that he took and kept at Mar-a-Lago, right? Some of the stuff that he maybe would have released if he wasn't leaned on by the sort of centrist GOPers, Rubio, Graham, things like that. It's really interesting. And it says a lot about the threat that Donald Trump was to the system and whether or not they will indict him. I heard Matt Christman from Chapo. I think this was an interview he gave to Crystal and Kyle, where he made this great point. He said, there's this precedent and this sort of tradition of not indicting a commander-in-chief, not indicting someone when they're either in office or once they leave the Oval Office. And part of the reason you don't indict presidents is because presidents are basically hired to commit crimes. That was the point he said. And so it makes sense that, like, if we're going to go and actually prosecute these people for the crimes we hire them to do, then nobody's going to want the job, because basically to run for that office is to volunteer to spend the rest of your life in a jail cell once you leave office. And so that's why we tend to not want to go there. The question is Donald Trump so disruptive that they will break that tradition and take a chance and go ahead and do it?
Yes.
And we're at a point right now where if what Greenwald is saying is true there, and like I said, I don't have any reason to doubt him because his word is always very, very good, then the answer might be yes. They might actually break and indict him.
Okay, so while I spiel, why don't you answer Gina in the chat there? She wants to know how to call in as a Patreon supporter.
Oh, sure thing, Gina. Oh, I'll answer you in the chat while Russell.
That's what I'm
gives his
saying.
spiel.
So,
Okay,
so
so
everyone
Gina, I'm
doesn't
going
have
to type in.
have to listen to that again.
Okay, I'm going to type in the instructions right now. All right, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead, go ahead, you fucking prick. Say your piece.
God damn it! I got my say to say here.
I got my piece. I got to say my piece.
I got to say my piece. Yeah, I think Trump is that destructive and disruptive, and that's why they're going to prosecute him. They are not going to take any chances that he's going to get back in office. And if he does run, even though, look, my money's on DeSantis, part of my logic in betting on DeSantis is that they're going to make sure that Trump can't run. If he did run against DeSantis, I don't think it's as foregone a conclusion that Trump would win, as a lot of people think. But look, I mean, you have to say, looking at the numbers, advantage Trump. I just think a lot of things can happen over the course of a campaign. They're just not going to take that chance because DeSantis does not strike me as a guy they're going to have to worry is going to pardon Snowden. So they'd rather have him than have Trump. They are going to knock out Trump, especially when you look at how weak the potential Democratic field is. Unless there's some dark horse that we're not thinking of, you're almost definitely going to get a Republican president in 2024. So when you select a Republican nominee, you're probably selecting the president. They can't have that be Donald Trump. They cannot. They're going to prosecute him for that reason.
That was it? That's all you had? You didn't give me enough time. I'm still sending her instructions. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what I got.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's probably true. And I think that this piece of sound that we just played is evidence for that there was real pressure being applied to Trump. And look, this explains why they went after him for every little thing. You know, Sean Hannity put up a graphic that he thought was sort of owning the libs for going after Trump on too much, listing like dozens of offenses that they've investigated him for. Of course, that is a reflection on the many offenses of Donald Trump. So in one sense, that was a bit of a cell phone on his part.
Right.
In another sense, though, they have a point. Like, he's not the first president to do a lot of terrible shit and get away with it. I mean, you could list those offenses for just about anyone.
Well,
especially George W. Bush.
George Bush gets to dance with Ellen, right?
Exactly.
He gets rehabilitated by the liberal class. That
like,
for me.
The only sorry, go ahead.
That for me is the smoking gun where I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear from the same fucking people who, get all teary-eyed about Bush sharing a fucking candy with Michelle at a funeral about what an abhorrent president Donald Trump was. I don't want to fucking hear it from you. If you can stomach George Bush, if you're going to swallow the media rehabilitation of the worst president of our lifetime, bar none, then I can't take you seriously when you're talking about how horrible Trump is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. And one thing that I would add is that, part of the reason they are so aggressive in going after Trump, and if these threats were made to him by members of his own party, that they will vote to convict if you do anything to cross the national security state in the last days. That shows what we've all kind of sensed, which is like the only way to go after Trump is to make it personal and threaten him personally, threaten him with jail time, because he's totally unaccountable to all of these other institutions. He's just a wild card. So you can't threaten him in any other way but to actually put him in a corner, and say, listen, we're going to lock you in a cage if you fuck with us here. And that is essentially what they did to him throughout his entire time in office. Right? I mean, they never got off his ass about anything. They were always threatening to put the fucking guy in jail, and now they're still threatening. And the reason they might actually make this kind of move is, like you said, just to take him off of the board. Right? For this
I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Exactly.
That's what they laid on him in a back room in the Senate. My question, I don't doubt Greenwald's reporting. My question is really, well, why didn't he just do it on his last day? I mean, Bill Clinton, pardoned everybody whoever gave him money behind a fucking bus station bathroom on his last day in office.
Well, he's a pussy. He's a coward. That's what Greenwald said. And look, he has no moral conviction. Like, Trump doesn't care that Edward Snowden is, living in exile unjustly, or that, Julian Assange is being tortured to death unjustly. What the hell does Donald Trump care about that? He doesn't care. He figures, all right, my life will be easier if I don't do this. I guess I won't do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to take a moral stand for fucking anything. So, like, if they threaten to vote yes on impeachment, what that reads to Trump as is, well, they're going to give me problems if I do this.
Right.
And it's not worth the trouble. So why do it? You know what I mean? Techno Estate is saying that half of your comments are not showing up. Somebody had an issue with this a few streams back. There is a character limit on the comments, by the way, so that might be the issue. I think it's like 200 characters or something. So if your comments are too long, it will reject them. So perhaps that's what it is, because we have a very lively chat in here. Looks like the comments are coming through loud and clear. Gina, did you, if you're still on the chat here, did you receive my instructions to call in? We're about to sign off now, but if you do want to call in, we could say a quick hello. But yeah, the way you call in if you're a Patreon member is, and this is good to know for anybody who is considering becoming a Patreon member, go to patreon.com/do-dissidents. We send out an email to all the patrons a few hours before the show with a link. You just open the email, tap that link from a phone or a laptop, whichever, and it'll walk you through the steps. It'll just do a mic check and a camera check, and then you'll be in the studio and you can talk to us like Edward is ready to do once again. So before we wrap, Edward, do you have any final things to say before we wrap this afternoon?
Yeah, I suppose the one question I had was, like, I suppose the Kennedy thing, like if that came to light and all the documents did come out, is that like what sort of a situation would that put, I suppose, the national security state in? And like, would it be a situation that the emperor has no clothes sort of thing? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's an excellent question. I mean, I always felt that 9/11 would pose a similar risk. Like, if you declassified information telling the truth about 9/11, not that I know the truth about 9/11, not that I'm one of the people who says there's explosives. Like, I'm not, that's not what I mean. What I mean is exactly what did come out about that day, which is that, like, the Saudis bankrolled it, and George W. Bush hid that information from the public, right? They made that information hidden from the public, and then when those 23 pages were revealed, I thought, wow, this is going to be a bombshell story that everybody's going to know now, that the Bush administration covered the ass of Saudi Arabia, who they knew were responsible, at least in large part, for this crime. And turns out no one knew. No one cared. No one gave a shit, right? It just didn't matter.
Because the media didn't tell them to.
I think it's partly that, but I think it's partly that people just kind of know. Like, a lot of people in this country hate and fear the government. Like, that's almost an American ideal. It's almost like woven into the fabric of what it is to be a United States citizen, is to hate the government and suspect that they're lying about everything. And so these conspiracy theories are really not as damaging to the social fabric as you would think, because a lot of people don't trust the government anyway. And so, like, oh, they lied about 9/11. Yeah, what else is new? We kind of figured that all along, right? They lied about Iraq's involvement in 9/11 to start the Iraq War. Pretty much everybody knows that now. That's a perfectly mainstream thing to think now. Right. And so, maybe they lied about who financed the 9/11 hijackers. Okay, I guess that's kind of important. Maybe I'll think about that for 45 minutes, and then I'll watch the game. I think that answers your question.
Yep.
All right, let's admit Gina. Gina, you made it onto the stream. Nice to meet you, Gina. First time caller. Thank you so much.
Hi, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're a rocket scientist, an aerospace engineer. Is that what you right?
Oh,
is that right?
Is that Gina? Oh, right.
Yeah.
We have an expert on.
You're too smart to be on this show.
Don't be too nice. Undergrad in aerospace engineering.
Well, you're on your way.
Trying to get my master's though, so on my
Don't go
way.
into too much debt.
Well, look, now we have a contact at NASA. When the Earth has to be evacuated, we're calling you. Gina, get us on the last helicopter off this rock.
We do work with NASA.
We have a connect
build their
here, yeah.
satellites, which is fun.
Exactly.
They're a pain to work with sometimes, but it's cool. Like, take a step back. I'm like, wow, I'm working with NASA on the space station around the moon. But then I'm like, NASA, why all this nonsense?
Well, you know, Keaton works with Instacart.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn, bro.
That's my high
no
tech
cap
profession, right? Exactly. What's up, Gino? Did you have any questions, comments, anything on your mind before we wrap?
Just wanted to say hi. I think what you guys do is pretty sweet. My first, I guess, instance of seeing you guys was the Aaron Mate interview with the Van Boys, which I did used to subscribe to them, but honestly, when they stopped fixing up their van and just sat in their rooms the whole time, and Jackson Hinkle became the third roommate, it was just like, ugh, I can't handle this.
So they actually had a van at one point, right? Was that their gimmick at
but
first?
They're fixing it up, and they just didn't finish fixing it up, I guess. So,
that's like the Lincoln
they were gonna
Project, right?
travel.
One of the guys in the Lincoln Project, I think it was, I forget the guy's name. He has the beard, the gray beard. What's the guy's name with the Lincoln Project? I forget.
Which one? The pedophile?
I don't know that about him. He's like a bald head, short with the short white beard. I forget his name. Anyway, he raised a bunch of money to do some.
That's the thing with the Lincoln Project. When you say the pedophile, you say which one?
Right? Yeah, which one?
Yeah, and you're not narrowing it down with the bald short guy or anything like.
His name is on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. He raised a bunch of money to make some documentary that he just never made. Like, he raised a bunch of money from these libs.
Oh yeah.
And then he just decided to shelve it and kept the money for it.
I know.
Sounds like TYT, Four Horsemen of the Climate Apocalypse, which I donated to. Got a stupid TYT zip-up jacket with the pocket in the pocket. Embarrassed to wear it. I don't even know what the fuck to do with it. I tried getting the logo off. It won't come off. Like acetone, ironing. So if anyone knows how to remove a fucking iron-on logo. Or I was going to put patches over it. That was the next thing I was planning on doing. Because it's a nice hoodie. Like, I like the little pocket in the pocket. But don't want to
rocket
show
science
my
can't
shame.
figure it out.
Rick Wilson is the guy's name. Rick Wilson. That's it. I just looked it up. It was bothering me so much that I forgot it.
You're like
But-
pedophile from Lincoln Project.
Yeah.
I didn't Google that. I Googled Lincoln Project members, and then I saw a picture came up.
God knows what the algo will start to feed you if you put in those keywords.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I have not experimented on that yet.
Facebook is convinced that I really need to be in a lesbian dating group. So that gives me some
I mean,
confidence
same, so-
that we're pretty far away from AI taking over the world.
I want to create
Yeah,
a
I
Facebook
mean-
group called Dying of COVID for Jesus. and see who joins. What a great name for a Facebook group.
Man, that reminds me. I was at my freaking grandpa's funeral, and one of my family members hugged me and was like, "Oh, I'm not vaccinated." As they're hugging me, like nice and tight, like whisper in my ear. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
That's you.
That's like a horror movie. You know, they
is.
hug you, and then the camera just goes in on the lip and the ear.
Right.
I'm not vaccinated.
Like so proudly too. And I'm just like, why? Yeah, you could have just not told me. I would have liked blissful ignorance to the pride that not
Right,
vaxxed.
right,
I'm like,
exactly.
stop, shut the fuck up. Okay. Ah! But I still haven't gotten it, surprisingly. I mean, that I know.
I haven't gotten it
So-
either. I have not.
So my
gotten it
sister
either.
just had it.
Same
and
here. We're just all jinxed ourselves.
I
Yeah.
know, knock on wood, still got my C card, bro.
Seriously.
There you
Um,
go.
But
Ed, did you have anything to add?
No, I'm all good.
Oh, you turned your mic on. That's why I readmitted you. Sorry. All right. Sorry.
But if you have
Bonnie.
any questions about space stuff, or I used to work for the Predator drone company at one point, which was fun. That was in the Mojave Desert.
That might be
Yeah.
fun.
Would it be funny if Gina's feed suddenly cut and we never heard from her again?
I know, right? I gotta tread lightly, but I do all the like 3D printing stuff for my company, so I'm one of a few people who knows what I'm doing. So maybe they can't fire me, or they can, but they'll.
That's good. No, you got to make yourself irreplaceable, right? That's what they say in
Exactly.
the workplace. Exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys,
No one
well-
else can print 3D parts. That little gimmicky
Well,
bullshit.
when you're
Except
working
me.
for the government, if they need you, they'll just fake your death and then just
Yeah.
make you work in a facility somewhere anonymously.
Exactly. Fake my. Yo, don't even go down even though I'm smart, I believe in some weird ass conspiracy theories. Mostly because I have worked with the government a little bit. So I'm like, before you admitted me, I'm like, man, I don't trust the government, but then I'm also building all their freaking spy satellites. So it's a fun, delicate little balance. Like all those satellites for the war going on, that's the company I work for. All those zoomed in, so everyone's just obsessed with the war at my company, and I just want to. Oh my god, it's insane. Yeah, I can't.
Wow.
Just talking to people. Well, we
Wow.
take pictures of it. Look at the pictures we've taken, and I'm just like, yeah. Look at all the other pictures we've taken of other countries too. Like, yeah. But you can't see any of Israel though. Somehow, a little interesting. Look at Google Maps. Some of it's blurred. Anyway, sorry. I'll mute myself now. I'm just going down a little rabbit hole.
No, that's all right. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you, Ed, for calling in. We are going to wrap the show now because I have a couple toddlers who need dinner, so I've got to do that. But thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you, Gina. It was great to meet you. Thank you, Ed. Pleasure as
Thank you.
always. And you guys can join the show, like I said, if you want to call in access, patreon.com/do-dissidents or do-dissidents.substack.com. We appreciate the super chats, everybody who donated this time. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to our podcast listeners for listening. This will be up probably sometime over the weekend. Russell, we got anything else, or are we ready to wrap this?
No, we're ready to wrap. Toddlers is code for he's meeting with his cell.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, I'll leave that up to everybody's imagination. Thank you guys very much. Be safe. Be well. See you next time.
Please clap.